Well, we'll start. Welcome to the April 29th, 2021 Parma City School District Board of Education meeting. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now roll call, Mr. Lucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Present.
Mrs. Carpus.
Present.
Mr. Price.
Present.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Present.
Mr. Vaughn. Present.
Thank you. The board remains committed to the health, safety, and welfare of its students and their parents, our staff, and our community. But even in these times, the board needs to take actions to keep the district operational now and fully functional in the future. For these reasons, the board will conduct an in-person meeting tonight with limited seating due to the required 3-foot social distancing. We will live stream this meeting to the public in accordance with the applicable law. Dr. Smilak, can you please confirm that this meeting is currently being live streamed?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Can you please monitor the live streaming throughout the meeting? And if there is a problem, please speak up immediately so that the technical difficulty may be addressed. Okay. With that, information to the board, Dr. Smilak?
Yeah, I appreciate the forum. First, I know we had some concerns about COVID levels, specifically at Normandy and Parma Senior High. That has slowed quite a bit in the last several days. We've not had new cases, and so we're hoping that we have kind of gotten over the hump with regard to some increasing numbers. We certainly continue to do everything we can in school and ask also that our families and our students, when they're outside of school, take precautions. As we've learned, one case of COVID is too many. One leads to multiples, and so the more healthy and safe that we can all be certainly behooves us. And so we certainly don't want to have to take more dramatic measures than we already have at Normandy with the temperature taking and symptom checking. But again, we believe at this point that the numbers have plateaued. I also want to point out that our students who have had COVID, knock on wood, have not had severe cases. They've had mild symptoms, or they've been asymptomatic. So that's, hate to say it's a silver lining in a black cloud, but it is. I'm very happy that they're healthy and they're coming back to school healthy, and there's no long-term damage to this point. I also would like to remind everyone that Tuesday is Election Day. We certainly worked hard to answer every question that we can possibly have in front of us. If you think about the big questions, we've always heard Parma schools cannot manage money. Well, today in Cleveland.com, Mr. Benson wrote a nice profile on our perfect audit that we had, thanks to Sean Nucio and his team, and Mr. Flageman and her team. And we are very proud of that. I think that is a really significant turn to a positive direction for us. In the article, one of my comments was, we've gone from having a state babysitter at all of our finance meetings, if you remember as recently as 2 years ago, to having a perfect audit. So that was always a huge question in the community's mind. We've answered that question. The community wanted to know, this money, is it really guaranteed? Audrey was able to secure for us a letter from the OFCC explaining that the money is guaranteed. And so we posted that as well, so that's another significant question that we've answered. Always in the community, we've always heard, how many schools do you have? You have too many schools. This is 6 campuses down to 2, folks. That's 6 lawns, 6 roofs, 6 boilers, 6 HVAC systems, down to 2. I think the consolidation is very clear, it's dramatic. And again, that's answering the community's question. Folks have asked about Parma Senior High. How are we going to invest money in a rec center? It's not a rec center. We will have facilities that are community assets that we will share with the community. It will always be budget neutral for us. Mr. Nucio across, that I just credited for the perfect audit, will not let us spend any money on recreation. That's going to be a hard no. So we need somebody to work the pool. No. We need somebody to open the door for the folks that want to come in and use the walking path. No. So it will always be budget neutral. We use the staff that we already have. It is not an additional expense. However, given the fact that we have all these needs anyway, we need a central office, we need a DIS department, we need an ACES program. It just makes sense to have it here and continue to have great assets for the community and share those. as we have really tried to throughout. So we've answered really every question that's been presented to us, including one or series of questions in a relatively negative mailer. The only question that we really have for our community is it worth it to you? Are our kids worth it to you? Are our communities worth it to you? We clearly think that it is worth it, that our kids are worth the investment, that our neighborhoods are worth the investment, that our facilities are worth the investment, and that our kids should have absolutely the best possible facilities and the best possible opportunities that all of their suburban neighbors have. And that's the question in front of us on Tuesday. And we're certainly hopeful that our community also thinks that our kids are worth it. That's all, sir. No presentations tonight.
That's, I mean, I would say the same, but it'd be the same thing, so I hate to just say ditto, but, well stated. Any other communications this evening? All right, well, communications. Now, Mrs. Carpus. Treasurer.
It's not everything.
Wow. PTA Council.
I'm liking this meeting. I mean, I'm not at home, but, good evening. I'm Heather Akechi. I'm the council president. So this past month, the PTA units are working towards electing their officers for next year. We're looking forward to learning who the new officers are. It's been a little bit slower. Obviously, many of the units are still meeting virtually. So we're looking forward to being able to hopefully change that come the fall. As we wrap up this year, we have a few key events that will be taking place. Saturday, May 1st is our annual flower and plant pickup, aka the Geranium Scholarship Fundraiser pickup. We expanded our list over the years to now carry 125 items, which is why we're now plants and flowers. Almost feels like we're running a mini pop-up store on Saturday. We sold over 4,200 items. That's 550 hanging baskets alone, and over 1,700 vegetables and herbs. It's a huge quantity in a short period of time that we get distributed out all on Saturday. We want to thank all those that purchased and supported the scholarship. And thank you to Mr. Gorman. I'm not sure if you're aware, he coordinated another purchase of tomato plants to be distributed to the food pickup distribution. So that's another 400 tomato plants that will be donated out. Next week marks Staff Appreciation Week. It's going to be a little bit different this year throughout the units. We're working hopefully to acknowledge all the hard-working staff. In the meantime, Parma Council PTA wants to thank all of our staff for educating our children. We appreciate the hard work and dedication everyone has put in, especially with all that has gone on this year. At the time, our scholarship sponsors have been contacted, so I'm aware, and are anxiously awaiting the chance to contact the parents of their winners. It's sad enough that once again we can't have a scholarship dinner for the winners and the families and the sponsors, but we look forward to sharing the announcements through social media. Our plans are to bring back the dinner for the class of 2022. This year we had over 100 scholarships totaling around $90,000, and congratulations to all the recipients and best of luck next year at your post-secondary school. On Wednesday, May 26th, Parma Council PTA will be hosting a training course for all incoming officers. This will take place in person at Parma Senior High Cafeteria, but we will also be hosting it live for those not comfortable in attending in person. We'll be going over many topics to help get next year's officers a chance to start the year off and ready to go. Our spring awards ceremony this year will be hosted on June 2nd at Keystone Pavilion, rain or shine, hot or cold. We will be awarding the 2020 and the 2021 award winners of the Helping Hands, TMPTA, and Special Education Advocate. We will also be installing our 2021-2022 officers. After the ceremony, we will be serving a box meal for those to either enjoy with others or they can take home. We are trying to be very careful and cautious so we can all finish off the year safely. All those invited will receive an invite from Parma Council PTA via email, which includes all of you. You should be getting that any day now. And you will RSVP to the name attached. Your name is Alicia by May 24th. This is being co-hosted with Dr. Smilek. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. June 2nd, mark the calendar. Parma Council PTA is currently running our last community scholarship raffle. This event is an online via Facebook, and tickets can be purchased on Cheddar Up through May 28th. The winner will be announced at our spring awards ceremony. Again, all this money goes back to our community scholarship fundraiser. We are excited that 27 members from our PTAs are registered to attend the Ohio PTA Convention, June 11th through the 13th. This will be a virtual convention. We also have 10 people attending the National Convention, June 17th through the 27th, the 26th, which is again virtual. The schedules and workshops are being finalized for both conventions, and we can't wait. Lastly, we're looking forward to getting next year scheduled. Council has already released a tentative calendar for the year, and we are looking forward to adding the units events to our council calendar. We are currently collecting artwork from our schools. Parents can submit pictures of their students' work to our PTA council email. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
What was the time on the June 2nd?
June 2nd, it's going to be 6 o'clock to 6:45 is going to be our awards, and then...
It's in the evening?
It's in the evening, yes.
Thank you. And that, May 1st is Saturday, for the pickup.
Yes, May
What
1st,
time
Saturday.
for that on Saturday does that start?
It's pickup, we're trying to do 10 to 4.
Okay.
If we get it all sorted earlier, then those who are there will be able to pull the stuff, but we're giving us a little bit of time so that we have a lot to sort, because it just comes off the truck in
Oh, sure.
whatever way they can fit it in there. So we gotta put it all in order so we know what we're pulling. I know some people, I'm not sure, no one called me, but a few people that must have gotten some scorcher tomato, or scorcher red peppers, because I ended up with like 4 left over and missing 4. So we're gonna make sure to keep them a little bit more separate this year.
If you've never been back there for the pickup, it's now not just, it's a nursery.
It is a nursery.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
very well run. You guys did an amazing job last year
Thank you.
with how just pulling through, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
that's PTA. That's
Good
PTA.
PT.
Looking forward to
Thank you.
it.
Thank you. Do we have any amendments this evening?
We do not.
We're not. Public participation, is anybody, we do not. Then we move to the approval of the written record of proceedings from the April 15th, 2021 regular Board of Education meeting. So I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-171, approval of the written record of proceedings from April 15th, 2021 regular Board of Education meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second for resolution 2021-04-171. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
2021-04-171 has been approved. That brings us now to curriculum. Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-172, granting authority to the administration to enter into a contract with the family during the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
A motion and a second for 2021-04-172. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus?
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes, 2021-04-172 has been approved.
I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-173, graduation requirements for the class of 2021.
Second.
Motion and second for 2021-04-173. Questions or comments?
I do. If anything changed, it's just very close to graduation, so I was just curious if there's,
Well, it is very close to graduation, but it's sort of a relaxation of some stringent requirements in case students just have not really gotten the points that they needed.
Okay.
So it's consultation with the principal and counselors if the student is deemed to be on track to graduate, and we can really essentially use the performance in our courses,
Okay.
which is a good advantage for our students. I mean, it's minimizing the reliance on standardized tests.
fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus?
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes, 2021-04-173 has been approved.
I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-174, authorizing agreement for EduLastic.
Second.
Motion and second for 2021-04-174. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus?
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-174 has been approved.
I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-175, approval of K4 digital music resource.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 2021-04-175. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-175 has been approved.
Unless another board member has anything else to discuss, this concludes curriculum for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Walton.
Business, Mr. Kreis.
We do not have any action items for businesses this evening. If any other board member has anything to discuss, this concludes business for this evening.
Okay. Finance, Mr. Kreis.
Exactly, finance. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-04-176, approval of supplemental appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion and second for 2021-04-176. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-176 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2021-04-177, approval of then and now certificates over $3,000.
Second.
We have a motion and second for resolution 2021-04-177. Questions or comments?
Can somebody,
Want to explain?
So these are both for DIS, and it looks like they used a couple different purchase orders to pay the T-Mobile bill, but they didn't have enough money on the bill, so they had to open up another purchase order, but the purchase orders opened after the invoices came in.
are these for the hotspots?
No, I think these are just like regular bills,
Okay. Okay.
monthly like cell phone bills.
All right, thank you for the explanation. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-177 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2021-04-178, acceptance of contributions and donations.
Second.
A motion and second for 2021-04-178. Questions or comments?
I do want to thank those fine people for remembering Parma City Schools with their donations. Very kind. The Graphic Arts Council of Cleveland, it's outstanding. And Ms. Moray there with her craft items, I'm sure that will be put to good use probably for it. So very good. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I like how accurate something is when it has 32 cents at the end of it.
Right.
They kept it straight. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes. 2021-04-178 has been approved.
Unless another board member has anything to discuss, this concludes finance for this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kreis. That moves us to legislation. Mrs. Carpus?
Actually, I am going to allow Mrs. Bratz to say a few words because she has been following this for far longer than I have.
And I was going to ask next, Mrs. Brock.
I'm just going to mention about House Bill 200. Right now, they're considering elimination of the report card letter grades that have been in existence for, I'm going to say 20-some years. I don't know if anybody here knows exactly how long it's been, but I remember in the 90s this coming out. It was a system trying to give the public information about the operation or the success or not so much success of their school districts. And it's sort of akin to student grades where the public could kind of understand it a little bit better. However, and I'll editorialize for myself here, what has always troubled me about it is the fact that it's a narrow look. It doesn't really give, in my opinion, a wide look at what a school district does in order to meet the needs of students in the district. And it's based on, test scores and some data points without giving a good look at all the other responsibilities that a school district has in caring for children. And so I'm personally really happy that they are reviewing this and looking at a different way of helping evaluate districts in terms of sharing information with the public so that the public can understand a little bit better. Some of the verbiage developed will be some phraseology that describes how districts are doing as opposed to the A to F letter grades, which is kind of a difficult thing when all the other parts and pieces of education are considered. So that's moving through. We'll see what happens there. And of course, the budget process is still moving along, and we've got our fingers crossed that they'll be smiling on
Public
education. Yeah, public education and funding for that.
So can I add,
Yes.
because I was interested, I too thought it was in the 90s. The first report card came out in 2003, 2004.
Oh,
and we were
wow.
deemed to be effective. The designations were excellent, effective, continuous improvement, academic watch, or academic emergency. We received ratings on third grade reading achievement, fourth grade proficiency, sixth grade proficiency, ninth grade proficiency, attendance rate, and graduation rate. Parma achieved 11 out of 18 indicators. So how many, that was one report card, how many have there been since then? We're at least our third since then. Then we changed to grades, and now we're thinking about changing again.
Oh, style of report cards.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
Sorry. So just a,
That's similar to standardized testing. We go a couple years with one kind, and
Right, I
then
mean,
flip it to another. And
that's what, so at that time it was ninth grade proficiencies. And then it went to Ohio graduation tests. Now it's end of course exams. I mean, and that's always been what I've tried to really verbalize on the ed choice topic. If there was one clear bar and one clear measure, and it stayed the same, that would be something that potentially you could understand. Maybe not agree with, but understand. But when the bar changes every single year, and changes behind closed doors, by the way, how is that a fair game to play? But
Thanks, Dr.
They don't
Smiler.
use the scientific method.
So if there are no other questions or comments from board members, that will conclude legislation for this
Thank you,
evening.
Mrs. Bratz. Moves us to Human Resources. Thank you, Mrs. Bratz.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. I move to adopt Resolution 2021-04179, approval of the following certificated exhibits: confirmation of stipend amount, confirmation of substitute teacher appointment, approval of certificated non-compensated leaves of absence, acceptance of certificated resignations, and confirmation of supplemental appointments.
second.
We have a motion second for 2021-04179. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04179 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2021-04180, confirmation of certificated administrative appointments replacements.
Second.
We have a motion second for 2021-04180. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04180 has been approved.
We just said congratulations to Michelle. She has been performing in that job as the interim since probably December. And been doing a phenomenal job. Normandy's actually been down one administrator, which, given all that they have endured with COVID, really is a compliment to Mrs. Urban, Mrs. Hendinger-Smart, and Mr. Brando. But tonight, we're really thrilled that Michelle has earned that job officially. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, can I add a hooray for that as well? I had an opportunity to work very closely with her when we planned the 50th anniversary for the opening of Normandy. And she's just outstanding. And as the students and folks affectionately call her K-Smart in the building, she's awesome. She's terrific. I was thrilled to see her get that spot.
Good,
So.
glad to hear that. Good job.
Okay. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2020-104-181, non-renewal of substitute teacher limited contracts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for 2021-04-181. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-181 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2020-104-182, granting authority to the administration to enter into a contract with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for substitute staffing services during the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Sorry, I was actually in my brain thinking when the last time we used Rachel Wick, sorry.
No problem.
Steve covered me.
Sorry. We have a motion and a second for 2021-04-182. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-182 has been approved.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2021-04-183, approval of the following classified exhibits: confirmation of classified appointments replacements, confirmation of change of classified assignments, approval of classified non-compensated leaves of absence, confirmation of classified resignation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for 2021-04-183. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-183 has been approved.
I move to adopt Resolution 2020-104-184, termination of non-teaching contract of Robert Bambrick.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for 2021-04-184. Questions or comments? Mr. Nucio?
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus.
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn.
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Yes, 2021-04-184 has been approved.
Unless another board member has something they'd like to discuss regarding human resources this evening, this will conclude human resources.
Thank you, Mrs. Bratz. I move to policies.
All right.
Mrs. Carpus, we have a bunch of first readings here, Pierce.
We do. All Neola recommendations, so nothing language specifically for PCSD. So you have the first reading of revised policy 1623, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. First reading of revised policy 2240, controversial issues. First reading of revised policy 2260.01, section 504, ADA prohibition against discrimination based on disability. First reading of revised policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in district programs or activities. First reading of revised policy 3123, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. First reading of revised policy 4123, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. First reading of revised policy 5336, care of students with diabetes. First reading of revised policy 7440.01, video surveillance and electronic monitoring. New title, the current title is body worn video systems. And unless anybody else has anything about policy, that concludes it.
Thank you. That's good. You said they're all Neola recommendations.
They are, and kudos to the senior leadership team that put everything together because it was a very succinct and on-point meeting and very,
Awesome.
yes.
That's us, man. We're pretty updated now. We've been doing this all year.
There is quite a bit. Ms. Kim in the curriculum. If it wasn't for her, though, I don't know if any of us would keep it all together. She is phenomenal when it comes to that, so.
So I know that I've done this in the past, this can be tedious work at times, when you're going and revising everything, but you've been nice, well done, thank you. At this time, any information requested by board members? Seeing none. Are there any questions or concerns to be read into the record tonight? No, there are none. Okay. Just keep flipping. Then I move to adopt resolution 2021-04-186 to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion and second for 2021-04-186. Any questions or comments? Mr. Nucio.
Mr. Schweitzer,
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus,
Yes.
Mr. Kreis.
Yes.
2021-04-186 has been approved. This meeting is adjourned.
Wait, you skipped Cindy.
Oh,
We cannot adjourn now. The law says we have to stay here.
yeah.
Forever and ever.
You stay around and stick with that law. Wait for the lawyer to come. We'll go from there. We'll do it again then. Roll call.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Did you get it? Yes.
Mr. Vaughn,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpus,
Yes.
Mr. Kreis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bratz.
Yes.
2021-04-186 has been approved. The meeting is adjourned.